Hello everyone, and welcome to the information, or welcome back to the information for those of you who watched my previous video where I counted down my top 10 favorite albums of the year. On the information, you'll get all the information on the latest in electronic, indie pop, chillwave, experimental music, and more. I hope you guys had a happy new year and a good holiday. Today we're going to kind of do the big video. We're going to do the top 50 tracks that I enjoyed most in 2017. I had a really hard time narrowing down this list because there's just so much good music that came out, but I did what I had to do. I narrowed it down, I got my list together, did a lot of number crunching, and I came up with my 50 favorite tunes of 2017. So we're going to kind of just run through the first half and get a little more detailed as we go along. At number 50, we had Chloe, or Kilo, with Dissolve. Number 49, Kelly Lee Owens, off her new self-titled record, with the song Evolution, a hypnotic techno tune. At 48, we had Alex Cameron with the tongue-in-cheek Running Out of Luck. At number 47, we had the jangly lo-fi pop track by Hoops called Burden, off their latest debut album, Routines. We had Ariel Pink with Feels Like Heaven, off his new album dedicated to Bobby Jameson. At number 45, we had Fleet Foxes with Fool's Errand, definitely one of the most expansive and sweeping songs out of the entire album that they had, The Crack Up, which was an excellent album, but just missed my top 10 of this year. At number 43, we had Bibio with Beyond My Eyes, which is a really left field, almost alien kind of dance track with the way the vocals are just sort of, you're not really sure if it's like processed vocals or if it's like a VST or some sort of synth or something like that, but it gives it a very cool, very memorable sound to it. At number 42 was The Drums, with the lead single to their album Abysmal Thoughts called Blood Under My Belt. Before that, at number 41, we had Two Tail and Quiet with a collaborative track called Welcome Change, which is a really cool, groovy, sort of lo-fi, warm, chillwave track. At number 40, we had Toro y Moi with a cut from his album Boo Boo called No Show. At number 39, we had Washed Out with the appropriately breezy song Floating By, off his latest album, Mr. Mellow. At number 38, we had Mount Kimbie with Maryland, featuring Mikachu, off their latest album, Love What Survives. And at number 37, we had the dusky, moonlit track from Beach Fossils called Social Jet Lag, off their new album, Somersault. At 36, we had a song from Kero Kero Benito, everybody's favorite Japanese English pop band. This was actually going to be a Japanese bonus track off of their album that came out last year called Benito Generation, and the track was called Forever Summer Holiday, but the single itself didn't make its way onto iTunes until earlier this year, so I went ahead and counted it because most people hadn't heard it until that point. At 35, we've got a track from Remo Drive. It's called Strawberryta, and it's a scuzzy tune from the Minnesota emo band off their album Greatest Hits. At number 34, we had Ground as Lava with a synthwave track from his upcoming Lost album, Ground as Lava 2, called Wait Forever. And before that, at number 33, we had Wilt with Scurried, which is a really cool experimental lo-fi song. There's like a breakdown with an ambient interlude and like a pick scrape section. Definitely, if you like your pop a little bit lo-fi and a little bit more experimental, that's a really good tune that came out this year. Make sure to not let that pass you by. At number 32, we had Sylvan Esso with Just Dancing, a song that I talked about a little bit on my albums video that I did previously on their album What Now. It's a really cool, propulsive, bubbling tune. I really like the energy that it gives off, and the lyrical content is pretty cool as well. At 31, we have Alex G with the bittersweet country ballad Bobby, which is off his latest LP Rocket, which came out on Domino Records earlier this year. At number 30, we have the Canadian dream pop band Men I Trust with You Deserve This, perhaps the most relaxing track of the year, I think. And at number 29, we had Comtrues with a cut off his album Iteration called Propagation. At number 28, we had Blank Mass with Silent Treatment off his album World Eater, borderline overwhelming with its disembodied vocals, shimmering synth arpeggios, and just this feeling of it just building infinitely until it reaches its climax finally at the end. It's a very satisfying payoff. At 27, we have the spacey electronic R&B track by Sampha called Incomplete Kisses, which is from his debut album that came out earlier this January called Process. And at number 26, we had the hilarious song from Thundercat called Friend Zone, which is an entertaining take on the non-existent place where Thundercat finds himself stuck in thanks to his obsessions with Diablo and Dragon Ball Z. And we're down to halfway, so I'd like to start number 25 off with Wild Nothing and his song Begin Again. And you're thinking, Wild Nothing didn't put any albums out this year, he didn't even put out like an EP or anything. They did have a song on the compilation 30 Songs, 30 Days, which was part of the anti-Trump song campaign that came out earlier this year. I think this is a great political song because it's a great way to balance the political side of the songwriting and still have a good, strong melody at the core of the tune, so it doesn't get super hammy or overwritten or too preachy or anything like that. It reminded me a lot of the material that was on the latest Radio Department album, Running Out of Love. Definitely equal parts political and musical, which is hard to do because I listened to that Onanon record, Hopelessness, and that's a way to like not do it correctly. That was lyrics first and songs second, and you could definitely tell that some of the songcraft did not hold up at the later end of the album. But Wild Nothing delivers a really strong balance with Begin Again. And at number 24, we have DeMarco with the woozy synth-pop song On the Level, which definitely, probably very purposely evokes Sade, which is never a bad thing. At 23, we have Grizzly Bear returning to their psychedelic sound that we heard more on Vecadamist and tracks on there like Ready Able. This one was called Glass Hillside, and it was definitely a standout on the what I thought was an otherwise pretty underwhelming album, Painted Ruins. But I do love the nice syncopated drums. It starts as a really cool, moody acoustic number, but it really takes an impressive sonic detour about a minute in and becomes this really weird, sort of almost medieval sort of sounding loop with the way the instrumentation sort of swirls and churns in the background. It's a really interesting tune. At number 22, we have a track from Different Sleep called Just Cause, featuring Deebs on vocals. And I wouldn't even necessarily call them vocals. He did a lot of editing and quick cuts and chops to the vocals, so you're kind of just hearing vocal edits and effects, not really like full verses or anything like that. But I think it's a gorgeous melodic future-based track. Like I said, the cut-up vocals are really impressive. They add a lot to the rhythm of the song, and there's an awesome kick pattern in there as well, and a lot of the sections build very nicely into the next one. I just think it's a really great tune. Check out his album Forget It. It's his debut album on Friends of Friends Records. It just came out earlier in January, I believe. Really solid tune, really solid album. This was just the one on the album that stood out to me the most, Just Cause. At number 21, we have Mathew Cothran with Let Me Know, Wildlife, in parentheses. This was a crazy track. Insanely raw, powerful vocals, even though they are kind of coated with auto-tune, and I get goosebumps every time, honestly, listening to this track. It's hard to choose between this one and Liquor Store is the best song on the EP that he put out, Judas Hung Himself in America, which was actually the first of 2 EPs that he put out this year. He just snuck one in before the end of the year called Lost Memory, and it was pretty good, but I would definitely have to give the nod to Let Me Know, Wildlife, just because of the lyric, I am not ready to die, drag me out of this wild life. That is an insane, crazy, heartbreaking lyric. At number 20, we have Sampha again, this time with another Japanese bonus track. Yes, it seems the Japanese keep getting the best songs on these albums. This one with In Between and Overseas. It's a beautiful piano tune, really, literally just anchored by piano and a little bit of icy metallic percussion. It's got a great sense of restraint to it, and it really reminds me really strong vibes of Pocket Symphony era Air. So if you like that kind of sound, if you like Air the band, I think this track, In Between and Overseas, is definitely something you'll want to listen to. At number 19, we have Jim E. Stack with a track off his It's Jimmy EP called Moments Noticed. The reason that this track is at number 19 is pretty much for the moment that I first heard the kick drum come in, I was in love. It's a nice down-tempo track, nice use of electronic elements like the 303 squelchy little bass hits. There's some distorted drum fills which are really cool. It's just a really well-crafted down-tempo electronic song, and I think Jimmy Stack low-key had a pretty good 2017. He put out the It's Jimmy EP, which was really good, and he also had a collaborative track with The Range called With You that was part of like a 7-inch that he put out through Domino Records, and I thought that was a really solid tune as well. Really hypnotic, like locked groove kind of thing, really intense percussion. Yeah, Jimmy Stack, Moments Noticed, number 19. At number 18, we have Kelela with Onanon from her album Take Me Apart. And I'll just come right out and say, I wish this song went on and on, but sadly it ends at around 4 minutes. It's her big breakout album for Warp Records, which is a huge sign of things to come for her. I think her year can only get better from here. There's great production from Jam City on this track, who's one of my favorite producers. It's got a super strong chorus, a really nice bed of synthesizers and strings especially, really cool punchy drums. There's a great breakdown section where it's just like her singing the title track just over and over this like Jersey Club beat. It's really mesmerizing. I like it a lot. At number 17, we have my favorite track from the King Krule record, The Ooze, called The Cadet Leaps. I talked about this one again a little bit in the Best Albums video that I did last week. There's just gorgeous swaths of like ambient bliss and loungy piano. It's got really cool like jazzy overtones in it. There's a moment from like the 3-minute point onward where it's sort of this sea that swallows you in all these different textures and sounds and tones. And over top of all this, there's even some spoken word poetry by Filipino musician Idris. It really makes you feel like you're just floating into the sky at that point. It's a really awesome way to tie that track together. At number 16, we have Danny L. Harle with Me For You featuring Morrie off of his One You Love EP, or the 1UL EP. I think it's a fantastically fun synth-pop song, really catchy. He's had a very good year this year, not just with that EP, but he also did production for the Charlie XCX track I Love You Too, but he also put out the song Never Thought under a different alias called Danny Sunshine, which I thought was an excellent track as well. I was just really digging the 90s Euro house and like dance vibes. It really reminded me, this song specifically, of that Alice DJ song Better Off Alone, just with his like choice of synth leads that he uses. I just really like any artist that's willing to dive back into that era of electronic music. At number 15, we have the first appearance of my artist who put out my album of the year last year, Alvvays, with their dream pop tune Dreams Tonight off the record Antisocialites. I love the earnest, longing vocals from lead singer Molly Rankin, who's pining over someone in a 1980s high school John Hughes movie kind of way. Just beautiful, soothing melodies and a captivating chorus to boot. At 14, we had Beach Fossils with a song that came out last year called This Year off their album Somersault. I thought this was a great, strong comeback single from Beach Fossils, not because I thought they had fallen off or anything like that since Clash the Truth, but it did show a lot of growth for the band since their last record. It's got crisp acoustic guitar, there's a striking string passage that fades the song out towards the end, and plenty of uplifting melodies. And sure, casual listeners might not be able to discern a song like This Year from anything Real Estate has ever done, but I honestly think that this one here is probably better than any Real Estate song they've ever put out, so that's why it's number 14 on my list. At number 13, I wanted to put out a single from electronic French pop duo Yelle, that's Y-E-L-L-E, with their song Romeo. They put out 3 really great singles this year, Inter Passion and Ici Maintenant being the other 2, but this French artist saved her best single for last, which is obviously a love letter to love, and finding that certain person, that Romeo in your life, you know, having that little crush that you can't get rid of. There's some typically strong production from Grand Marnier on this one as well, with a really emotional synth hook at the very end of the chorus. I get a really strong emotional response from this tune, which was unexpected the first time I heard it, but afterwards I really like what this track makes me feel. It's a very seemingly simple track, but it gets a lot out of me, which I really appreciate. It does a lot with a little, which is why it's number 13 on my list. At number 12, we have another repeat artist, this time out Kimbie again, but with the track Delta. Now this was the song that got me officially hyped for Mount Kimbie's album, because even though this came out as a single after the album had released, I was ambivalent about the album and listening to it. I thought it was just going to be kind of a meandering, slow album, with the James Blake track only being like 2 minutes and not really deciding what it wanted to do with itself musically. But seeing the music video, I think, for Delta as well helped a lot. There was just this really intoxicating post-punk energy with like synths that kick off sounding like car horns and like busy traffic. It's just got these frantic, up-tempo, rushing drums on top of things as well. It's a great use of tension, and it builds up to a crazy finale that leaves you feeling completely exhausted by the end. At number 11, we have Heavenly Beat with his track Bodega off his album John, which came out late last year. It's just some lush, Kate Bush-inspired lo-fi pop with a great electronic edge. It's got a fun, charming mid-tempo groove. It really just encapsulates, I think, what makes John work as a record so well. So I figured I'd put this song here as the prime example of why John is such a good record. I think Bodega really makes the strongest statement out of any song on the record. At number 10, we have Brockhampton with Swamp off of their second Saturation record. I thought this had the best hook on any song on Saturation 2, especially with Matt Champion's part. We hear some of the best verses on the entire record, or really from any of the 3 records, especially from Joba, Dom, and Merlin has a memorable appearance as well, as usual. It's just a really laid-back tune, really great production, and really nice synth work as well. At number 9, we have Violence and Monica Martin with their song How It Left off of their album Awake and Pretty Much Sober, which I think is a pretty underrated record. Again, another one that just missed my top 10 list of the year, but definitely something that shouldn't fly under your radar. It's a sparkling, entrancing song with a great driving bass line that really carries the tune, and a sweeping chorus of strings and trip-hop beats. Monica Martin's vocals are incredible, as they are across the entire album, and they give it a very sultry kind of vibe. I was really impressed with this tune. At number 8, we have Nite with the song Part of Me, which was off of her Real High LP that came out last year, which was one of her funkiest albums yet, with references to Janet Jackson and Sade all over the place on that record, especially on this moody down-tempo R&B track Part of Me. It's got just an immaculate chorus, and it's a great tune for cruising around the city late at night especially. At number 7, we have Protomartyr with Male Plague off of their album Relatives in Descent. I wasn't a super huge fan of the album as a whole, but I thought they had a couple really great songs, and Male Plague was probably the one that stood out the most to me. I mean, what can I say? I love me a good song about taking toxic masculinity down a few pegs. With lyrics like fear of the future, losing your hold, male plague, I think that's a great line that really encapsulates the message of the song, which is basically how insecure men think the world owes them something. Their pedestal is crumbling and they don't know how to handle it. And Protomartyr deliver these lines with the typical crushing walls of guitar and searing vocals from Joe Casey. There's also a switch up towards the latter third of the track that features some really explosive, powerful guitar chords that I just cannot turn up loud enough whenever they come on. At number 6, Brockhampton reappears, this time with Bleach off of their most recent Saturation 3. This was the most beautiful track the group has ever put out. The pitch down vocals during the chorus only add to the potent emotion to the track. Really strong Frank Ocean vibes on this one. And the harmonizing at 3 minutes and 30 seconds into the track is mesmerizing. It's complete bliss. There's even a surprise Bareface appearance toward the end of the track. You'd think they would have waited until the last track of the album to put him on, but they put him on at like track 5 or 6, which is really great. At number 5 is Alvvays with another cut from their Anti-Socialites album, In Undertow, the lead-off track from the album, which features some soaring shoegaze from my favorite indie rock band at the moment. In Undertow does feature that wall of sound that made shoegaze so popular in the 90s, but it still gives Molly Rankin's vocals room to sit in the mix so she can deliver some of her best and most memorable lines. You made a mistake you'd like to erase, and I understand. I like that even though the antagonist, the boyfriend, or I guess in this case ex-boyfriend, is being really immature and the one trying to break it off, at least she's able to like empathize with where he's coming from, which is a really mature way of looking about it. You don't often hear that from a lot of breakup songs. And I also do happen to identify pretty strongly with her assertions that she doesn't rely on pseudoscience-y stuff like astrology or the moon phases to help her through the breakup. She just kind of deals with it on her own. She takes up solitary self-defense to get her through the relationship, which I'd be lying if I said that I didn't do any of those things myself. So yeah, really great song, number 5, Alvvays with In Undertow. We're all the way up to number 4 now, and it features Australian electronic and dance artist Darcy Baylis with the closing track from his album Intimacy in Isolation, called Be Patient, Be Tender. I put this track so high up on the list because I think it best summarizes what we all need to do in 2018, not just with ourselves, but with each other as well. It's a great message over top of a really slick down-tempo dance beat with some memorable synth stabs over a spellbinding chorus. I also like the inclusion of the female vocals over the chorus at the last part of the track. The way those sounds mesh together really makes me wish that it didn't end so quickly after the chorus. It just kind of just fades itself out, like it's just kind of done. But when a song gets that kind of reaction out of you that you just want it to keep going and you're almost upset that it's ending already, that's how you know it's a great track, so that's why I put it at number 4. At number 3, we have Alex G, but this time with Brick, the cut off of Rocket, which was smack dab right in the middle of the album. It was shared at the time, at the same day, with Sports Star, and I think the reason that he put it out as a single on the same day as that other track is to greater juxtapose the difference in sound that you were going to be able to hear on the album. You know, you've got Sports Star, that underwater sort of jangly, bubbly pop tune with the really weird auto-tune vocals. Really sounded like something that would have been off of either of the last 2 Frank Ocean albums, Endless or Blonde. And then you have Brick, which is literally, it's a brick. It's a brick through your window. You can make such an obvious comparison to Death Grips on this track, and honestly, that's one of the reasons that it's up so high on the list. I'm just a really big Death Grips fan, and the fact that Alex G was just willing to go there. And he didn't even have to make this track, let alone put it on the album, but because he put so much effort into it and so much time into really crafting that sound and making it as effective as possible, I really think that he did a really good job with it, despite the fact that it's barely over 2 minutes. It doesn't overstay its welcome because of that. He dials the intensity up to 11, probably even up to 12. He's cranking out this jarring, in-your-face noise rock tune where he plays a purposefully nefarious narrator, which I really dig. He's like apparently trying to intentionally toy with somebody, either trying to push them out of his life. I love how he's just screaming into the mic, "I'm gonna put a brick in the wall between me and you." And he's just sticking his tongue out, almost making fun of the person. There's that sour guitar that opens up the track, and then it's just this loud, propulsive explosion, and it just hits you about 30 seconds in. It just kind of like crashes in like it was just waiting for the right cue, and then just busts in, and it's just like having a jet engine take off on your face. It's crazy the amount of energy this song has. At number 2, we have a song that's pretty much on the complete opposite end of the sonic spectrum from Brick. It's a tune by Maggie Rogers, everyone's favorite indie darling, but it's not the tune Alaska. I went ahead and chose Better, which is one of the more underrated songs on her EP, Now That the Light is Fading. The reason that this one's up here instead of Alaska is because as soon as I heard it, I knew that I wasn't going to hear a more warm, inviting track all year, and it turns out I was right. You've got the relaxing synth pads, you've got the organic percussion, you've got the nature vibe with like little birds chirping in the background, and then on top of everything you've got the soulful voice of Maggie Rogers reminiscing about traveling and that sort of wanderlust and being caught between two cities and loving both places equally, but still, you know, missing the other one whenever she has to travel between houses or doing tours and things like that. Missing home, that kind of subject matter. It's a really nostalgic song, and the icing on the cake for me that really sold me was around 2:35 in the song, where her voice kind of gets glitched out a little bit, and she sings a line from the chorus, and it gets kind of chopped up from there. It's just this beautiful, aching synth line that comes in over top, and it just really takes the track home. It really doesn't get any better than that as far as musical moments of 2017, except for my number 1 track, and that was going to be by Noble Oak, and it was called Distance Gone off of his album Collapsing Together, which was his sophomore release. For those of you that are unfamiliar with my music history, which I assume is the majority of you guys, especially the new listeners, Noble Oak actually made my Song of the Year list last year as well, with All I Said, which was a cut from his debut record, Past Life. So to me at least, there's no surprise that he makes number 1 again for 2 years in a row now. The reason this song is so near and dear to my heart is because of the aching, gorgeous piano and guitar melodies. Noble Oak really reaches into his heart and like pens a song as beautiful as words can describe, and honestly I think the words really kind of don't do it justice. It's really just a song that you just kind of have to hear for yourself. It just really gets you in this kind of feeling where, you know, if you're not careful, you're gonna get some wet eyes going on a little bit. So make sure you're not chopping any onions while listening to the song, because it's going to take you just right over the edge. I will have to say I'm not 100% sure what the arc of the lyrics are about. Either the narrator is having to break up with a girl, or he's either realizing that he had this old flame and he still has feelings for her and he's trying to rekindle that. Honestly, I'm not sure, but the pure and undeniable emotions that he sings with are what really carry the track for me. It's a song that makes your heart ache in the best possible way, draped in 80s melancholy and delicate falsettos. It's just such a beautiful track, and it has such a confident sound to it. To me, in 2017, there was no better song that came out that year than Distance Gone by Noble Oak. So that's going to be my number 1 song of the year. So now that you guys have seen my list, that's going to be my last list of the year. So next up, we're going to just start rolling off into some regular album reviews. Not going to be any more 30+ minute videos, which I'm sure you guys will enjoy. I think we've got releases from Panda Bear coming out later this month. I know Porches is coming out with a follow-up to his record Pool, so that'll be really exciting to hear. And then just anything else that January has to offer, I'll be looking forward to it. So you guys be sure to stay tuned to the information. Let me know what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, what maybe I could do better, because I'm still starting out, and it's really up to you guys to let me know what you guys want to see, what you guys want to hear. And thank you again for listening to The Information.